Welcome to Holy Koolaid Live, where I bring some of the most interesting guests from all around the secular activist movement together to have conversations about all kinds of big ideas and interesting things, from science breakthroughs to religious extremism and dogma. Today, I'm joined by two Canadian atheists, Shannon Q.
Hi.
Godless Cranium.
Hey.
And if I'm not mistaken, you guys have just started doing a podcast together called The Heathen Hour. I'm really excited about it because I just launched a podcast too. So we're officially a room full of atheists slash skeptical slash science educating podcasters.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Best room ever.
You want to tell us a little bit about your podcast? Why did you start it? What was the motivation slash inspiration behind it?
Okay, well, I'll feel it. I've been wanting to do it ever since I started my YouTube channel. So, maybe not as soon as, but once I got a couple of thousand subscribers, and I always had like subscribers ask me about, are you going to do a podcast and all this kind of stuff, but I didn't want to sink time into it. So once I got a couple of thousand subscribers, so I decided that I wanted to do it anyways, and. So then after that, I was like trying to decide on who I wanted to have as a co-host, because I didn't want to do it just myself. I don't have any experience doing it. I'm not a super streamer. I don't stream on my channel very often, but I wanted somebody that I thought would be, fun and be able to contribute and that kind of thing. So I kind of like looked around and stuff, and I just thought Shannon was a really, we think a lot alike, I think, but there's enough difference that's still kind of interesting.
Is it because you're both Canadian?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So I think it's pretty cool dynamic, and so that's why I started it, and I just wanted to kind of like talk to people. I have a lot of times I have theists say that they want me to engage with them and stuff. So I thought it's kind of a neat way to be able to engage with them if I think there's something interesting to talk about. So
yeah, in the first couple episodes, you've brought theists on your show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I also bring on theists to make videos on my channel a lot. So, I mean, not a lot, but if I run across one that I think has a neat idea or an interesting idea, or one that I haven't really like thought about very often, I'll invite them to make a video on my channel, because I think that they probably want to, like me, I want to reach theists, right? Like I do want to reach atheists as well, but it's important to me that I also be able to reach theists, that they watch my videos. And so I think it's an opportunity for them to use my platform to reach people that they might want to talk to, right? And
do they return the favor?
I haven't had any, no.
Your channel and give them a platform, and you've never had them let you make videos on theirs?
No, I've had some ask me to do streams with them, but I guess that's not the same. But no, I've never had an offer for a video. And honestly, I don't know if I would bother. I mean, I guess I might, depending on who it was.
Shannon, tell us a little bit about your background. You've worked alongside Paul from Apologia for a while. You also have a background in psychology.
I do. Yeah, I have a degree in psychology.
How did you become interested in the secular activist movement?
Well, I was very devout religious. I was an Anglican, and I was an altar girl. I was very, very involved in the church. And I went through kind of a tumultuous time in my life. And it dawned on me at around that time, when people were telling me to turn more towards my faith, that, I'd never actually read the Bible. I'd only ever really had it dictated to me piecemeal. And I thought, what a great way to kind of, strengthen and reinforce my faith at a time when I need it the most. So I started to read it. And it didn't end the way that I thought it would. It didn't end with me strengthening my faith. It actually ended with me not getting answers to the questions that I had, finding that what I thought of as my innate morality wasn't represented within the pages. And I had a really difficult time reconciling that. I reached out to, priests and pastors, not even just in my denomination, but in others, and none of them could answer my questions. And I ultimately started to kind of to move away from it. And that was a really difficult time. But I found my way out of it and started to find out that there was other people who were like me, but just didn't feel like they had a voice, or that they were able to enter into conversations. So as I as I moved through life, I decided later on, within probably the past year or so, that I would start trying to open up dialogues so that I could normalize the perception of what an atheist is. So that's probably one of the ways that Godless Cranium came perhaps to selecting me as the co-host of the podcast. I've been engaging in what I would refer to as complex conversations with theists of all different ilks, and just trying to promote the idea of being able to have respectful discourse, even though you hold completely, diametrically opposed viewpoints, and trying to promote that stance while still holding true to my, I guess, what you would call position as an atheist and an anti-theist.
So reading the Bible made you an atheist?
Yeah, it pushed me in that direction.
No.
Reading it, yeah. What? That never happens.
It's crazy talk.
Yeah, no, it wasn't what I thought it was.
It's hilarious because right around the time that I was like learning about science and I was taking all these online courses just in my free time trying to like understand, I was doing it to build up my defenses for the Bible. And I wanted to be like an apologist for God and make all these movies to like prove that evolution is wrong. So I started diving into the science behind it, and I was like, something's a little off here. The last step for me was flipping through the pages of the Bible and coming to parts. I was reading it for the first time cover to cover. I'd read a ton of it and memorized a massive amount of it growing up, but it was all these cherry-picked, friendly verses from like John and Romans and stuff. And I start getting to like Deuteronomy and Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers. And like by the time I made it through the first 5 books, I was just like shaking my head, writing down all of the contradictions and all of the horrible things that God is invoking. I'm just like, I couldn't.
Yeah, I found myself highlighting passages and going back, like, because even Genesis, I found like right from jump, it started to contradict itself, because I was like, he just put a person there. And then I flipped and I was like, no, he's putting people there again. This doesn't make any sense. It's like somebody took 2 stories and just mashed them together and hoped that nobody would notice that it kind of started midway through. And then when I got to Numbers, I was just, I vividly remember just like slamming. I downloaded it onto my phone, so I was reading it through a Kobo app. Actually, I bought a 99-cent King James Bible and downloaded it onto my phone, and that's how I read it. And I remember slamming my phone down and almost breaking it when I got to Numbers. I was.
It wasn't the dirt people and God trying to decide whether animals were good companions for man. It wasn't that part that
the talking donkey, or the sicking the bear on the kids because the kids made fun of some guy for being bald.
Well, God might have been right there. I don't know. Male pattern baldness.
This is where Mike and I differ. I feel like you can't kill children with bears just because they make fun of bald people. It's one of the things that I hold as a personal value.
So I want to dive into the main topic of today is the difference between atheism in Canada versus in the United States. And, to unravel that a little bit, mostly what I want to get at is, do you have a lot of closeted atheists up there? Do you have a lot of extremism? Is it more difficult? What are the different religious denominations that you butt your head up against the most? And I'll kind of offer a little bit of the Southern perspective so we can kind of compare and contrast. Because you don't necessarily think that with the US and Canada both being Western countries, they're both, modern, fairly liberal countries. You compare that with the Middle East or with Russia or anywhere else, you don't think that there's going to be a lot of differences between America, like North American countries. You think it's all just kind of, the same issues. And I kind of want to unravel that a little and see how we can approach religion and atheism up in Canada versus down here in the South, and kind of understand maybe some of the different approaches that we have for different cultural differences. And I also like to bring in my patrons to join the conversation. So if anyone in the chat or anyone watching or listening wants to join this conversation about 15 minutes in, I'm going to post a link in Patreon that will be visible to all my patrons. And it's a Hangout link to come and join this chat. And you guys can come and engage with us, ask questions, give feedback, share your experiences and opinions, and have a good time. Overall, I think it'll last probably about 2 hours total. So just grab some coffee, grab some food, water, whatever, beer, whatever you want to drink. Hang
Unless
out.
genetically modified skeptic is a patron of yours, he's not allowed in.
No, sorry, no. That's a hard no. We don't deal with his kind around here. He knows that full well. He wouldn't dare.
What is the background there between you guys? That's
I love Drew.
I've heard the back and forth bashing, but I don't know the story. I haven't seen all of the inside.
I don't know. It's just I'm in real life. That's what I'm like. I just like bug people sometimes. I don't know. I tease people. I tease my fiance, and it's just nothing genetically modified anything like my fiance. But
they have a similar relationship, is what he's saying.
Like people at work and stuff, I just
Breaking! This just in. Genetically modified skeptic has a boner for Godless Cranium. Is it true?
I did get like a message on like Twitter or like in one of my comment sections that said like I have a like the Godless Engineer mask was me, and then I take that off and it's genetically modified skeptic, and underneath that's Rachel Oates. So, but I don't know. It's just my sense of humor. I just like I don't know tease people.
That's amazing. So I'm gonna break a couple of questions. Also, let's keep an eye on the live chat. Any super chats, we would love to answer any questions. Super chats go straight to the top. We'll try to field as many as we can. Godless Iowan just sent us a $2 super chat saying, "Love you all. Thank you for all that you're doing." Thank you so much. Godless Iowan has a channel and does he have a channel or just a blog where he?
It's a channel now.
It's a channel now, and he compiles throughout the week all of the top atheist YouTubers that have made videos and kind of puts it out there so you can kind of stay up to date and stay in the loop on what videos are being made.
His channel's actually pretty cool. He was previously a Pentecostal minister and came out of his faith. I've been watching his channel. He's a really interesting guy, and he came out of his faith due to a close relative, I believe it was his cousin, actually committed suicide, and he had a difficult time reconciling that, and came out of his faith through that tragedy, and is really turning it into some really positive activism. So people should go and check him out. He's done a lot for the community through supporting us through the blog as well, and you really should go sub to his channel. He's a great guy, and he does a lot for the community.
We've also got joining us in the chat, the Geek Room. I've been on their channel a couple times. We have Steve McRae, who was the first live guest that I started doing this with from the Great Debate community. We have
genetically modified skeptics in there. Looking for his boyfriend.
And Cosmological has a channel. There's a couple of others. Welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. A lot of chats. I can't see all of them, but I'm just going to start kicking off the questions, and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
Jonathan Kaiser has asked about the regional pockets of religious influence in Canada and how would you go about combating their influence? So do you have various pockets of, say, like Islam versus pockets of Jehovah's Witnesses? How does it compare to the United States, and what's your approach for combating religious extremism? And I'll field that question to Shannon.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I'm from a less populous area. So I'm from a place called Nova Scotia. I'm on the far east coast of Canada. It's a peninsula that's right above Maine. That's where I live. We are predominantly Christian here. And there's a moderate amount of cultural diversity, but not, and mostly in our major city, which is Halifax, but not a great deal out where I live in the rural communities. And mostly what I would see around here would be what you would call, I guess, cultural or cafeteria Christians, go to church on Sunday or don't go to church at all, but still call themselves a Christian.
Do you face much stigma for being atheist?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. I don't find it that the imposition of religious ideologies into our systems, I don't find is particularly prevalent, at least where I am. Like, for example, we don't have a Christmas concert at my son's school. We have a non-denominational secular Christmas concert where they, they still sing songs, but they don't sing songs with any religious affiliation. There's an absolute separation of church and state. There is no introduction in any way of religious ideologies in school, because we recognize here that there are people of many denominations or no denominations at all, and that's not the place for that. So, but the stigma that I have is that if people find out that I don't belong to a church, especially in a rural community where out here, if you don't belong to the church, people kind of wonder why. Why aren't you going to the church? How come I never see you at church? Why don't I see you at church on Sunday? You never go to the church. So you have to answer to that. And when you answer to that, you have to essentially either decide to cop up or make an excuse. And it's only been recently that I've said, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. And then when things happen, you're immediately the go-to. Like, you'll get tagged in a Facebook post. Well, they're taking religion out of this. You must be happy about that.
So it's very passive aggressive.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's very passive aggressive, and I can't actually, in my office where I work, I can't. It's not something that I can cop to at all, because we have a large Jehovah's Witness population in my office, so we can't discuss religion or lack of religion at all.
Ooh.
There.
That's interesting. When I think of atheism in Canada, I think of it as being much more acceptable and accepted and normalized. And I don't know if that's just Toronto or if that's just various pockets or parts that are more liberal, more kind of less religious, more secular. Mm-hmm. But am I completely off in that, or is that because my experience in the South is I lived in Texas for a long time. I lived in College Station. I've lived in Central Texas, been all over like Austin, Dallas and stuff. And now I'm in Oklahoma, and I'm a few miles away from Oral Roberts University, which was founded by a crazy radical fundamentalist televangelist preacher. And so I see billboards everywhere about God and Jesus and come join church and turn or burn, abortion is murder. And it's just, you cannot go 5 feet without running into someone like who is talking about religion or a church or something of a religious nature. Do you get that as much up there, or is it more just kind of a subtle thing where people just expect that you're religious? I'll throw that one at Godless Cranium.
I think the second part. It's just like expected of you, but I think you're right that it's not as in your face. At least on Ontario, probably in Nova Scotia, I'm guessing. It might be out west a little bit more religious out there, but I'm not entirely. I haven't been out there for a very long time. So
does Canada have a Bible Belt?
Alberta,
yeah.
Alberta.
Yeah, it's kind of like a conservative. Yeah, it's like our South.
They have a dual school board there, where they actually have a Catholic school board, which is still publicly funded, and a public school board. So
Ontario does as well, though.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah, we have a Catholic school board. Yeah, and it's publicly funded. And then they also get, actually, a lot of people that aren't Catholic send their kids to Catholic schools because they're better funded, because they get money from the government, but they also get money from the church that supports them. So each one has their own church that kind of supports that school. Wow. So yeah, so a lot of them are if you look at the scores and stuff like that, like the test scores, they test much better than public schools. So
that's really interesting. That's not a thing in Nova Scotia at all.
That's fascinating because in the South, or in the US at least, we cannot, as far as I'm aware, if you receive any kind of public funds, you cannot endorse a religion. Now, people find ways around it. There's churches, or not churches, but actually churches and religious organizations that will come with donuts to schools. And they'll basically say hey, if you want to come and, after school or during these break periods, if you want to come right here just off school property and get donuts and hang out and talk with us, then, it's not affiliated by, with the school. It's not paid for by the school. But as long as it's open to any organization to do, then they'll actually announce it on the telecom. They'll actually announce, oh, hey, there's, donuts and whatever, this church has brought. and the students will go and they'll get their 30 minutes of indoctrination, even in public school settings.
Wow.
But I don't think we can have, Catholic school boards that receive public funds. I think that they, you can have private schools, and there's been a massive push for like voucher programs, which is basically just a way to fund creationism and to fund intelligent design in schools. But
the U.S. has an active defense against it, though, right, in their constitution. Canada doesn't. So it says nowhere in there that there has to be a separation. It's just kind of implied that the government tries to keep it separate, but what the Catholic school board shows that it doesn't always work, right? And they've had other groups that have tried to get funding as well, and they said no, just the Catholics get it. So
just the Catholics, so not Anglicans or anything.
Yeah, no.
You have a church, an official state church like the Church of England or something like that?
No.
Because even though like we think that the UK is fairly secular, they still have, the Church of England, and it's,
Isn't it a funny paradox that Britain, who has like a state church, is more secular, like more non-religious than the States, which is actually said right in their constitution that they have to be separate. It's kind of weird, but Canada doesn't have one of those.
Just think how radical it would be in the States if we didn't have anything in the laws that push against it.
Yeah.
Although then again, it might be the opposite effect. It might be that if we had a state church, and if we were more, politically theistic, people might not really give a crap. Now they feel like we're in a battle, we have to be radical, we have to be constantly pushing. Whereas I think I don't know, it's kind of counterintuitive. What are y'all's thoughts? Do you think it would make it worse or better?
Now I think it would make it worse. It would be an interesting experiment, I guess, if you had a time machine to go back. Yeah. But now I think if you just kind of flipped it and said, "Oh, okay, we're going to have a state religion," I just think that it would flood. Mm-hmm. There would be like they'd be like, "Here's our chance," and jump, and it would just start to permeate a lot of things. I think that would be a dangerous
I think now they feel like they have to push back against secularism and atheism. Even though we're like a tiny minority in the US, it's like 5% atheists, 20% non-religious. We are overwhelmed by religious fundamentalists, and yet they think that somehow it's all the atheists and secular people running the government and running the media and running everything. It's like, no, like, are you insane?
Well, to be fair too, there's probably a lot of secular theists, right, like that are Christian, but they value the separation of church and state. So there must be, or else it wouldn't last, right? Like you'd have to have people that stand up for the Constitution. So,
well, and you see that all the time here in the States, where you'll have some courthouse or school board or something that will put up some type of plaque or statue or something that's endorsing one religious persuasion or one ideology, and it's always Christianity almost every single time. And then all of a sudden you'll have another religion that comes along, like the Satanist, the Satanic Temple will come along with a statue of Baphomet and say like, hey, like if you're going to do it for them, you have to, equally offer it to all of us. And every single time they wind up taking it down. They're like, oh no, we're not putting that.
We changed our mind.
Like they want equality as long as some of us are more equal than others, to paraphrase Animal Farm, George Orwell,
Oh my gosh, I think your stream has been stuck on me. I just looked down at my phone. I'm always on the screen.
Is it? It might be in the Google Hangout if you click on yourself.
Oh, I'm not. I'm clicked on you actually right now.
Why are you clicking on yourself, Shannon?
I'm not. I'm clicked on Thomas.
I might have fixed it because I think I had clicked on me before to see if my camera was aligned, and then Shannon started talking, so I clicked on her.
Am I the only one that's not clicking on themselves?
I've clicked on Thomas, you jerk. Oh my god.
On nobody.
I'm not clicked on you. Are you mad?
I'm a little upset. I'm a little bitter.
All you have is a picture of yourself up. So
there, it's switching.
Fixed it. So the next question, Dawn, I think over on Twitter, maybe Facebook, Don Machaud, something. He asked, Holy Koolaid, what video did you like making the most? Ooh, that's a really tough one. The David Wolf one took me a month to make, but it blast and really taken off now on Facebook because all of the anti-David Wolf pages are sharing it, all the anti-pseudoscience pages are sharing it, and it's not specifically atheistic. It's just pro-science and anti-alternative medicine, spiritual woo, whack job thinking. And in the last day, I've gotten 160,000 views on it since I published it. So
nice.
It's getting harder and harder to gain traction on YouTube though, because the YouTube video has like 5,000 views. But yeah, no, that one was hilarious because it was fun because he's making all these insane claims and getting to animate it was a blast. Dawn also asked Shannon, will you ever make videos?
Yes, I will. I promise. I said, I promise. I will. I'll make a video one day. I'll do it.
And I'm assuming that the follow-up question would be when.
Well, I joked around previously. I said if I ever get 500 subscribers, I'd post a video. But now I've got almost 7. So if I get 1,000,
always moving the goalposts.
Well, I'd put a sub link to your channel below. But
I think Shannon would make a good theist since she's always moving the goalposts.
Oh, you know what? I swear to God.
I was going to say, though, Shannon, it would be much easier to get subscribers if you have videos. If you don't have videos, people are less likely to sub to you.
Yeah, what's really funny is that I have not a single video and I've got like 700 subscribers.
Just think how much you would have if you had videos. It's like if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, I will one day. I will. I need the wherewithal to do it. I'm really busy doing stuff for other people's channels a lot of the time because I work so heavily with Paulogia. Like I do a lot of his background research and his B-roll, and I'm a guest on that channel. I do guest spots on other people's channels. I do a lot of live streams. I do the podcast.
You've been helping out too with the upcoming, it's the very first atheist conference in Dallas, the Faithless Forum.
That's right.
It's the week after the American Atheist Convention, the week after Easter, and it's going to be in Dallas. Faithlessforum.com is the URL.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think the website's up now and you can get tickets now too. All the bios went up yesterday.
Awesome. And I'm going to be there.
Yay!
We're trying to get Godless Cranium out there, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen this year, but if it happens again next year, I'll definitely put that time aside.
We're going next year too.
The next question from Dawn, he asked one to each of us. Godless Cranium, toughest video that you've ever made?
Oh, Jesus. Toughest video I ever made. Oh, I think probably the one about the indoctrination of the Native Americans. I think that was the hardest one, both emotionally, and I had to put a lot of research in there. I read a book and did a whole bunch of reading on it. And I didn't really know a lot of it. I didn't really know a lot about it. I knew a little bit, obviously, but not a lot about it until that video. So that video took a lot of effort and it really drained me at the end of it. I don't think I made a video for a little while after that. So definitely that one.
I'll put a link afterwards in the description, but if you want to send me a link, I'll post that up. Ellen Stewart asked, what's Shannon's channel name? And the answer to that, I have it in the video description. I believe I have both of your channels. Actually, I don't know if I have, because you said you wanted me to promote Godless Craniums. Do I have?
It's just called Shannon Q.
I have Shannon Q in your Twitter handle.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So much. Yeah. One day when I post a video, I hope you're there. It's mostly just playlists right now. Like for example, this will be on a playlist.
Okay.
Streams I've joined. So there's playlists of things that I do there, but I've never posted any original content. I will
link to your podcast too down there. Jennifer Ann Jacobson asked, I must be dumb, but what difference? Could it be that we of the South, I hate characterizing myself with that descriptor, are very angry? Do you have a lot of angry atheists in Canada, or is it normalized to the point where people are just like, yeah, I don't believe in God, whatever? Or are you, do you face a lot of atheists who are like, I've been lied to and religion is crazy and you guys are all over the place? And, because I found I went through a phase where I was kind of bitter and I felt a little bit duped. And I went through a bit of not a super angry phase. I don't like living under a umbrella of hatred, but I have seen a lot of that in the South. You get those angry atheists up there?
I think that has a great deal to do with the level of indoctrination that you had to begin with. Like, for example, I wasn't particularly angry when I came out of religion because I didn't feel like, aside from the fact that I no longer believed it, and I felt as though I was foolish for having believed it at all. There was nothing intrinsic in my life that had to shift. So I didn't have to lose friends. I didn't get shunned by my family. I didn't feel like I did lose a sense of community from no longer attending the church. So I lost that, but not as much as somebody who, let's say, was indoctrinated into a young earth creationist view, or somebody who felt that they had to get married young because, that's what they had to do, because that was a part of their doctrines, is that they needed to follow that path. Or somebody who felt like they missed out on life choices that they would have otherwise been able to make. Somebody who has been in a faith where it was more firmly entrenched and insular, I think it's more difficult. So I don't necessarily think that it's, geographic or based on what your citizenship is, more so than it's based on what faith you're coming out of and at what phase in your life and what that means to you.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. And I knew one guy that was really angry at religion, and I think he was a Jehovah's Witness, or he had been. He also believed in Bigfoot, so there's that.
Fascinating.
And he truly believed it. He tried to get me to go out on Bigfoot stuff. It was crazy.
So even as an atheist, he still wasn't skeptically minded entirely.
Yeah, well, he said that he'd had actual experiences where he was out. He used to go out on like expeditions, and he said like he'd actually seen it, like seen a Bigfoot and experienced it and stuff. So
it's like you can't argue with personal experience. I encountered a big hairy monster in the woods, and
yeah, he used to laugh at me because he'd be like, "You're such a skeptic."
I know what I saw. It took my virginity, man.
So yeah, I've seen both. Like I've seen like people that are angry at religion, and usually, like Shannon said, it's usually because they've wasted a lot of time, a lot of resources, and stuff. Like Shannon, my religious upbringing wasn't like my parents. Actually, I was saying this earlier. Last weekend, I went and visited my mom, and we were talking about religion. And my dad was really he died, but
I'm sorry.
He was a really book smart kind of guy, right? Like he read like National Geographics and all that kind of stuff. And my mom's not so much that kind of person. She's more of like a people person. And I always thought that my mom was the most religious, but my mom said to me, we were at the table, she used to talk about God and stuff, and she said to me, "No, I don't believe that stuff." I was like blown away. Like, really? You don't? I was like, "Did Dad?" And she's like, "Yeah, he did. He's the one that got us to go to church because he wanted to make sure that you had a grounding in morality and that kind of thing." So yeah, it blew me away. I had no idea until just like a week ago.
A week ago. Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa. I had a interesting similar conversation with my parents where, they both are, very, very religious, but I was talking to them about my upbringing, and I was a young earth creationist who was taught, I was basically indoctrinated with this idea that God created everything and humans and dinosaurs lived alongside each other. And then I remember talking with my parents about it, and my dad's like, "Yeah, I didn't really necessarily hold to that belief at all. And like, I'm totally like cool with, potentially God using evolution and the earth being older. It doesn't change my beliefs." But I was just like, I was floored by that, because I was like, what the hell? Like, and then I talked to my mom about it, and she's like, "Well, it seemed like the best schooling at the time, and I just don't really know for sure, but it." And I'm like, "Mom, like, come on."
Oh no. Oh God.
I believed that stuff until, probably junior or senior year of college was when I started kind of taking a really in-depth look into it. But Godless Cranium, Steve Bauman is asking you to move to a real province.
I like Steve.
And he also asked Shannon, what are your triggers? And I'm not sure that you want to share those publicly, because someone might
we would never take advantage of those.
I don't have a lot of triggers. I don't think. I'm pretty calm.
Is it when somebody like rubs their beard against the microphone?
No, I can handle that. You can do that for a while. That's okay.
Certain noises.
It's talking to Friended. That's the.
Oh, he's in the chat.
Yeah,
I know. No, when somebody misrepresents my argument back to me,
completely unrelated to the content about.
You roboted out there.
You did.
I said, you said when people misrepresent you, that's a trigger. And I said, that's completely unrelated to your comment about friended, right?
Yes, of course. You would never do that because that would be disingenuous. And that's not how he rolls. He's all about honesty. And
I'm joking. I know you guys butt heads, but it's not fair of me to say stuff like that without letting him in or give him
exactly.
So I'm going to move on to the next question. Tony Reed asked who would win. I don't know what he's talking about. Is he talking about like in a gunfight or a battle of the wits or
Tony Reed?
Yeah, he just said who would win.
Who would win? I don't know. But
we kind of settled that with the what do you call it? French and Indian War, and the U.S. totally won that fight.
Oh, you mean like when we burnt down the White House? That was fun.
No, like the one where we clobbered you guys and took away, all of this territory from France, and a lot of it was Canadian.
Oh, Canada didn't exist yet.
Oh,
doesn't count.
So if you pitted,
we totally burned down the White House.
If you pitted,
we'd paddle our canoes up there and whoop some ass. That's what would happen.
You pit hockey moms up against Texas gun nuts.
Oh, hockey moms win.
Hockey moms every time.
Okay,
they're armored and angry.
Ooh. You have no idea. We're crazy. If Tony Reed is the best, by the way. He has a channel that is amazing. It's called How Creationism Taught Me Real Science.
So do your hockey moms sorry, this is I can't leave this point of the hockey moms, but do your hockey moms put steroids in their maple syrup, or what makes them so
No, it's the Tim Hortons coffee. That's what it is.
Right.
Tim Hortons coffee at 5 a.m. when you're on the way to the rink. It's sleep deprivation and really strong Tims. That's what it is. We are all hopped up on coffee. That's the problem.
I just thought that they're pissed off because it's cold all the time.
It's not actually. It's like it was 15 degrees out here today. I don't live in Ontario where it's cold all the time. I live way down south in Canada.
That's how you breed ruggedness.
What's that in Fahrenheit?
That's how you breed toughness. We're not soft like you guys down there.
Oh, buddy. Oh, my accent's coming out. Don't make me go crazy.
Old Snakes asked in the chat if there are any closeted atheists out there. Shannon, you already said that you are.
Yeah, to a certain degree. I'm just starting to come out, but in
a lot of people that you talk to, that you run into, who you find out afterwards, you're like, oh my god, they were an atheist, and I knew them for like 5 years and thought that they were religious.
Kind of, yeah. Recently, that happened to me. Well, it's not that I thought the person was religious because they demonstrated anything that made me feel. Because in your day-to-day conversations with people, most people in day-to-day conversations aren't quoting you Bible passages. You just kind of run with the underlying assumption that they belong to the larger majority, which is going to church and or Christian in my particular area. And
the percentages of how many atheists there are, like what percentage of the the Canadian population is atheists?
Oh,
I think it's like 40%. I'm
pretty
40%.
Sure.
Somewhere around there, yeah. Like it's a pretty big chunk.
40?
Yeah, that's pretty big chunk.
Is that non-religious or is that atheist?
Oh, probably non-religious.
Because that's like 1 in 4 people that you meet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an overt assumption to assume that everyone that you run into is religious.
That is interesting. I wonder if that changes by province a little bit too, because most people around here they belong to a church.
Well,
how much of that is just for the community? Do you guys have things like Sunday Assembly, Oasis, secular groups and meetups, the Unitarian Universalist churches?
CFI is pretty active.
We do have Universalist ones for sure.
Yeah. But there's not as much out in my communities in the rural areas. In the rural areas, the church has the market cornered on that. But in more urban areas, and yeah, definitely, there's secularist societies.
Okay. So the religiously unaffiliated in Canada and the US it's rising. Like from 1970 to 2010, it's gone from 5% or 4% to 24% to 30%, somewhere in there. So yeah, it's a lot bigger. And I think a lot of the people that actually are still religiously affiliated are, don't kind of believe in it either. They just kind of go to church, or they might be like agnostics or whatever. So
yeah. Well, I mean, we get that just about everywhere. I mean, there's in Saudi Arabia, one of the most religious countries in the world, there's like 20% of people who anonymously identify as non-religious, but they just go through the motions anyways. I think a lot of people, they don't want to be outside the norm, but they aren't buying into the bullshit, or at least they don't want it to affect their lives. They still want to be able to live normal lives. And that's why I think, people look at the media, they look at, they're like, oh, the media is so atheistic and evil and it's full of sin and violence and sex and profanity. And it's like, no, it's not that the people in media are all atheists. It's not that it's all just a bunch of non-religious people. It's just that they know that that's what sells. They know that sex sells. They know that, people want something that's, action packed and that, is intense and, pushing the limits. And whereas the G-rated Hallmark Channel stuff, or the Christian movies like Kirk Cameron Saves Christmas, is absolute garbage.
I wish that they would do a poll where they just ask people like flat out yes or no or undecided, do you believe in God? That would be so much easier, because a lot of times they get asked, are you an atheist? But a lot of people don't know what that means, or they don't want to actually say that they're an atheist,
or they feel like it's a hard stance.
Yeah.
And they kind of feel like, well, I don't know if there is or there isn't. I'm not really denominational, but I don't want to be an atheist. That's one of the reasons that I think that the perceptual normalization of what an atheist is just really paramount. Because if people see atheists as, antagonistic persecutors, which is kind of the stigma that we have to fight against. I've found that as I've started to wade in to this particular dialogue in this community, is that I'm immediately, without people assess me based on that moniker, without actually taking the opportunity to have a discussion or a dialogue or get to know me, they just immediately have a schema that's affiliated with what it means to be an atheist, based on the types of, I guess, YouTube videos or Twitter engagements that they've had, that tells them that if I'm engaging with an atheist, they're going to be antagonistic, they're going to be persecutory, they're probably going to be mean to me, and they're immediately on the defensive because they think that that's what I'm going to represent to them in that conversation. So one of my main reasons for wading into the community was to say, hey, we're people who just want to have conversations and live our lives as well. So, and not everybody is an activist. Most of the people that are atheists, I wouldn't necessarily say that they're closeted, but they aren't going around professing to it, in a proud or public manner, because they either feel like they have to keep going through the motions because they're afraid of being uncloseted because of what that might mean to them and the perception that might be thrust upon them, or they just, are living their lives. And people don't realize that there are, there's atheists out there that are just living their lives. That the perception shouldn't be based on that. So I think that needs to shift.
The ones that are just living their lives and that are kind of quiet, closeted atheists, those aren't the ones who are ruffling feathers, so they don't get a spotlight. And so the only atheists that they ever see are the ones that are, like here in the States, the David Silvermans of the world, and the Dan Barkers with the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and, who are going up and trying to fight for religious or non-religious equality, in government and in, public places. And so those people tend to tick off the religious vanguard that has been, pushing against it for so long. So it's,
well, you're also just fighting against tribalism, right? Like, I mean, we're a tribal species. So I could be handing out cookies and milk to people on the street and trying to convince them that that their religion is wrong. And they're going to, a certain percentage of them are going to think that I'm an evil Satan worshiper, right? Like, it's really a no-win situation in some cases.
Yeah. I got a $2 super chat from Steve McRae a little bit ago.
If he asks about agnosticism,
I swear to God, don't do it.
Travis Bell just pledged $6.66.
Travis Bell.
It's the pledge of the beast. And he says, I'm in Texas and my parents were missionaries for 16 years. Holy crap. Only religious, this fan still in the closet. It sucks. Well, hang in there, man. We're trying to normalize atheism for you. I know that there's a lot of religious extremism and insanity, and it is a difficult journey. I was there. I was a missionary kid, and I'm still the black sheep of the family. And I try to approach it from a very friendly face. I technically am an anti-theist because I'm a secular activist, but I'm not anti-theist so much as anti-theism. I hate that word. I try to fight against dogma, and I try to fight for truth. I'm not against people having their own beliefs. I'm not against people having beliefs that are different from mine. I want to have a multiplicity of ideas. And I think in the free marketplace of ideas that truth will win. But hang in there. It will get easier. I made a video on how to come out as an atheist, how to come out of the closet without facing too much stigma. I also did a live stream on the Heathen, not the Heathen Hour.
That is a good podcast, though.
That is the best. That is the best podcast you ever want to see. I'm just saying.
It was the Common Heathens podcast with Godless Mom and Mr. Oz Atheist, where we talked at length about some of the mistakes to avoid and how to go about coming out. And I think that definitely will help you if you go and watch that. Steve McRae, the super chat has disappeared from my view in the pop out chat. I didn't get to it fast enough. Can you repost your question or what you wrote? Sorry, apparently I'm too slow. Also, I've posted a link in Patreon to this Google Hangout. All you have to do is go and pledge either $1 a video, $2 a video, however much you want to pledge at any level. You'll get access to the Patreon feed. Then from there, it's in the thing, the feed, and you can click on that link and it'll take you right over to this Hangout. You can join in. Just make sure that you have some type of either webcam, or you don't even need a webcam if you just want to talk. Just have some type of mic, and you can join in the conversation and come hang out with us. This is your time to interact with the guests that I bring on the show. I don't know of any other shows that really do that open it up to talk with interesting guests, but once a month, anytime you guys want to come in.
I've got Steve's super chat for you. It says, who or what is a genetically modified skeptic? There you go. It's been read, Steve. We don't know.
Hell? How did genetically modified skeptic get in here? I thought we had.
What did we say?
It's a hard no.
We had ground rules.
I just decided to come in here, and I thought that I needed to defend my honor against these Canadian bitches. So.
Well, earlier I had Godless Engineer asked me if he could join the chat, and I said, I'm wanting to focus on Canada, but I have it's open to patrons. But if he becomes a patron, then he can join too.
Well, I actually became a patron for the second time, because I am anonymously a patron of a few people, and you were one of them. So I just joined with GMS, so I thought that I would just do it that way.
Wait, you're an anonymous patron, so you're a patron, but not under
GMS, yeah.
Godless Cranium or Godless Engineer is a clone of Godless Cranium.
We all know that Godless Cranium came way, way before, right?
I thought his secret identity was Rachel Oates, to be honest.
Oh, that's Cosmic Skeptic.
We've also got Eric joining us. Hello, Eric. Welcome to the chat. Tell us a little bit about where you're coming from, where you're chatting from, and I think your mic is muted, though.
Yeah, I was just wondering what it was like on here. I'm doing some other work and listening in, and I'm a Patreon, so I thought I'd see if I could join in. Just saying hi.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, both you and GM Skeptic. Thank you for your support. You helped me a great deal to be able to make videos like this.
For sure. I'm gonna mute, but I'll join in, or I'll chime in if I've got something to say.
Real quick, or where are you calling from? Are you in? I'm assuming the U.S.
Yeah, Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton, Ohio. Do you have a lot of religious extremism in Dayton, Ohio?
To an extent, yeah. This is a public account. I don't feel super comfortable about going into detail on here, but it's fair enough to say that, yeah, I'm a avid listener.
Awesome. Well, we're glad that we can give you an outlet to, vent some of that frustration. I had years of frustration before I ever made Holy Koolaid, before I ever made any videos where I just felt like I was the only one. And it can be definitely daunting and overwhelming. And it's kind of nice to know that, like, hey, there's other people who don't buy into this insanity too. And a lot of times, if you're not in the South or you're not in a religious area, you don't necessarily understand that experience. But I think what we're starting to see is even up in Canada and in Ohio and all throughout the US, you still get massive amounts of that. Even if you're not aware, it's still there. So it just depends on what you're exposed to. Genetically modified skeptic, you're here in the South.
Yeah, I am like pretty much directly 4 hours south of where you are currently, if I understand right. So yeah, I'm in Fort Worth.
You're also a closeted atheist.
Yeah, and I've made a video about that. So it's not quite like Dallas, where I am. Dallas is a little bit younger in its demographic. I mean, we went to the mall in Dallas today, and I saw people that were my age. Which
you look like you are actually in a closet right now. That room looks incredibly small.
It's I mean, I show a video of it, like in my oh, I just got these awesome panels, by the way.
Congratulations. At the mall in Dallas.
But yeah, I went to the mall in Dallas.
Join us next week. We'll have a full tour of G and Skeptic's home.
That's it. I sleep in here.
Lifestyles of the
I'm sorry I cut you off, but you said you were in the mall in Dallas.
Yeah, and there are people my age and people that are wearing things that aren't like they don't look like they're probably particularly conservative or religious, and there are people there that look like, hey, maybe they're not straight. Maybe they could be something that is either they don't really care about fitting the traditional like straight-laced white American man type look, or yeah, that doesn't happen really in Fort Worth. We call where I live the soccer mom capital of Texas, and it's all like straight white super religious people here. And I mean, even when we were in Dallas, we were going by, we were in downtown. We saw this amazing building. I'd never seen something this amazing that wasn't like a museum or something. And then I realized, when we were in Dallas, oh my gosh, this is just a church. This is a mega church. And it was as large as some of the office buildings that were around there for banks and things like that. So it's weird around here. I mean, if you're not just Christian, then you are definitely a minority. So I'm strange here.
Yeah, I've been to the Dallas-Fort Worth area a bunch of times, and we also mentioned earlier that we're putting on the first ever atheist conference up there, so that's definitely going to be a lot of fun. We've also just been joined by Travis, and I muted you briefly, Travis, because we're getting some feedback through your speakers, but I'm going to unmute you real quick. If you have some type of headphones or headset, that would be great. But tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're coming from. Briefly, Travis, because we're getting some feedback through your speakers, but I'm going to unmute you real quick. If you have some type of headphones or headset, that would be great. But tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're coming from.
Well, really, I just joined in because I found out that he's from Fort Worth. I'm actually in Dallas. I'm in Richardson specifically.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I think we're getting an echo.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of feedback.
Because I found out that
you might be getting something. I'll mute him again real quick. But if you join in the chat, one thing to note is that if you have the YouTube video up, then you'll start getting audio through the YouTube video and also through the Google Hangout. And the YouTube video one is a bit behind. It's a little bit delayed. So just grab like a headset, a pair of headphones, so it's not coming through the speaker, and just listen through the Hangout, not the YouTube video, or else you'll get a lot of delay. I put a link to Patreon where people can join. And it's starting to get a little bit full, but it should be good as long as, I'll just direct questions at different people. And if it fills up too much and we can't get anyone else, then just in the order that people came in, we'll start, cycling through or recycling people in and out. But Drew, you were talking about how you're not out of the closet, but you show your face all the time on your channel, and Shannon, you do too.
Mhm.
Are you not worried about the repercussions of that? And why is it that you guys will show your face, but Godless Cranium won't? I'll field that to Drew first, and then I'll go to Shannon and GC.
Well, the real reason why, is because Godless Cranium is a bitch. But I can't speak for GC. I don't know. I mean, him working in social work, that may have an impact on it, or I don't know his friend group, so I can't really speak for him. But for me, I think that at first I didn't really expect for anybody to really subscribe. I guess no one really would care. But but then also I didn't really think that anyone would find my channel without, I don't know, one person has actually found my channel by what they watch on YouTube recommending my videos to them and related videos, and that was my mom. So
were you out to your mom yet?
I was out, but she didn't know about my channel.
Ooh.
So that was a big deal. But it wasn't a big blow up thing. She didn't tell me until a while after she knew. So she was kind of mostly over it. It's a whole weird thing. I don't want to say too much about her just to keep her, details private, but it was only one person has actually found my stuff based on their recommended videos, and I don't expect that anyone else ever will. I mean, maybe they will, but if they do, like I've talked about in my other video, then so be it.
Yeah.
You're able to tell who or like where your viewers come from. I feel like I saw your video on some of the the side links, and I definitely clicked on them, but maybe not.
Yeah, and the thing is that the culture here and in my friend group is so religious. They will not find something that is marked atheism unless it is a Ray Comfort video.
Mm.
So yeah,
well,
and that's why I actually don't.
They might watch a Ray Comfort video that then leads them to a video about like Thunderfoot debunking it or something, which leads them to other atheist videos. Like it's interesting how that works.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll watch that stuff though. I guess I'm betting that they won't, but at this point, I'm okay with people finding out. I'll have to deal with it. I mean, it won't be ideal, but I'll deal with it. It's worth it.
Awesome. Well, hey, we got 2 more people in the chat. I don't know what the max. I think the max is 8. But real quick, hello to Cyrus or Cyrus, Rice or
Cyrus. It's Cyrus.
Who also has a YouTube channel.
Yep.
And also welcome to Cap Brony.
Yep. Hey.
Or is it Captain Brony?
Cap. It actually is short for Silver Air Patrol when I was in that. So that's where the name. So CAP, Cap.
Awesome. Fantastic. Cyrus, where are you calling from? Or Cyrus?
I'm actually here for like 3 minutes while I'm outside from work. We're just about wrapping up, but Deep South, Bible Belt, fun stuff.
Wow. Awesome. It looks also like, Travis, you got your mic fixed.
This is weird.
Well, I can hear you fine, and we're not getting feedback anymore, and you're unmuted, so that's fantastic.
I'm getting crazy feedback and delay.
You might have
but I'm
both the YouTube
like
video
feedback and delay and shit. I'm gonna drop and then come back.
Okay, make sure you close the YouTube video too. Cap, where are you calling from?
Well, it's like delay.
Yeah, we definitely have some delay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna drop.
Cap, tell us about yourself a little bit.
I am from and still in rural Kansas. Literally, if you include the church and all the people who live within the radius of where that church is, 2 miles outside of town, that is 4 churches where I live for a town of 1,000 people.
Oof.
And that's even, and I'm being generous on because it's like 926 as of the last census in the town I live. And there's 3 churches inside the city limits.
Are they all Baptist?
Baptist, Methodist, and Presbyterian.
Okay.
So yeah, it's
so slightly different flavors of the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, so I am out as an atheist here, and it is Yeah, it's been interesting for me, and I did have a question for the group earlier. I guess you didn't see or something, and or I tweeted at you too. I was just wondering. My question more or less was, what is the hardest part about being an atheist where you're at? I've actually lost friends because of being an atheist because I'm a immoral, evil heathen.
Who would you like to answer that?
That was actually, it was when before GM, so it was actually you, GC, and Shannon were kind of the ones I was targeting that one at.
Okay. Well, I'll answer it super quick so we can give them time. But for me, the hardest thing anymore, because I don't really make a whole lot of new religious friends because I'm so active in the secular community. The hardest thing for me is just the feeling of being surrounded by insanity. So like I'll go to a coffee shop and I'm like hearing people talk about, and then Jesus said that, and then this and this and religious whatever. So I'll hear people giving advice that is bad advice. Like I'll hear them talking about marriage and giving marriage counseling to couples based off of the Bible. I'm just like face palming, and I want to join in, but I don't want to have a 2-hour debate.
Yeah, I understand that. And yeah.
What about you, Shannon?
The hardest part about being an atheist for me is figuring out the best way to parse the issue with my son. I have a little boy who's going to be turning 7 next Sunday, and
happy birthday to him early.
Oh, thank you. And his I'm divorced, and his father's side of the family is very, very Baptist, and he is, he's not christened, and so he hears both messages essentially. So the most difficult thing for me by far is trying to make sure that I'm not indoctrinating him in the opposite way and influencing his decision in a way that he may turn to it in resentment of me because he felt like I didn't give him a choice in the opposite direction, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So raising him as a free thinker and supporting his choices, but when he's also being inundated with stories that, from my perspective, I know to be false, is the most difficult aspect for me.
I think on that note, I believe it's Matt Dillahunty that says, you teach a child one religion, you indoctrinate them. All religions, you inoculate them. I love that quote because as long as you teach them how to think critically, then they'll see all of the religions side by side. They'll learn about all of them, and they'll see one just like, the Greek mythology and the Roman mythology and all the, Egyptian gods and the Christian gods, and it'll all make sense to them that it's BS.
Yeah, which is why I don't push him. Like if you ask him, he'll say, "Mommy doesn't believe in God," but that's okay because people can believe whatever they want.
Yeah, and that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So, but I also teach him that to analyze ideas, because I think one of the main things that most people should do just in general is source claims, whether they're religious or otherwise. We're inundated. We're in a culture where we're inundated by information that's passing as fact, and in some cases information is even a generous moniker to give it. So teaching him how to analyze and source information, to be a critical thinker, and to advocate for his own education, I think is the most important thing that I can do. But that's the most difficult part, where he's receiving external conflicting messages by somebody who by family members. To be able to traverse that is the most difficult for me.
Godless Iowan just pledged a $2 super chat, and he said, "I like to believe GM was organic before gamma rays." I assume that one's a GM skeptic. And real quick, I'll field that question to Godless Cranium in a couple sentences. What's the hardest part about being an atheist for you?
Well, I don't actually usually go by atheist anymore. I more call myself an anti-theist. So, I in my personal life, I'm not like I don't go around like preaching atheism or anything. But at the same time, if somebody asks me, I just tell them that I'm an anti-theist. So, and if they don't like it, then I'm not the kind of person that really, at this point in my life anyways, I don't really care. Like if they don't like it and they don't like me for who I am, then shove off. There's other people in the world.
Yeah.
But I think the hardest part to answer the question though would be at work, because I have to go to churches and take clients to them. But the one family that I work with is very religious, like very Catholic. But I do feel like I think they know that I'm not really a believer, and so they kind of soften the blow a little bit. But at the same time, I think that's probably the hardest part for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna cycle a couple because Bill, GM Skeptic, unless anyone has a quick question for you or something they want to say to you, we're gonna boot you because you were the first to join.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm all in favor. I'm all in favor.
Woo! I vote. Get him out.
I've got a question for the group.
Okay.
Because Shannon brought something up about kids, and it reminded me. I weep for my nephews. Because my family is crazy, like religious. My parents were missionaries for 16 years, like crazy Baptist. My sister quit her job to become a full-time mom, which is cool and all, but she's indoctrinating her children, and they're 4 and 2 now. And I'm wondering what other people think I can do as an uncle, that as they get older, I can help them. Hey, this is a bunch of bullshit. You need to think for yourself, this type of stuff. Because, they're not at the age yet where they can think for themselves, I don't think. But so they're still being indoctrinated with all this stuff. So it's like, at one point, and what can I do? Any ideas?
Is that a question for GM Skeptic?
The group.
Okay, just target it at one person. GM, we'll go ahead and say goodbye to you so more people can join.
All right, let's do GM then.
Oh, GM, if you want to answer that first.
Well, I would say, especially with kids, you don't want to be too forceful. I think that Shannon probably has a lot better insight on this than I would. I've worked with kids of all ages, but I don't have a child of my own. But I look like a child, so yeah. But I would say that, especially if you're a family member that they see pretty often, just be an example of someone that shows unconditional love to them, regardless of what they know about your beliefs or of their beliefs. If they realize when they're older that you believe differently or something like that, and they've been indoctrinated, I think that having a humanized idea of your opposition in your mind really gets under the indoctrination that you may have gained as a child. Knowing nice non-believers really didn't help me stay a Christian at all. So at the very least, show unconditional love to them, regardless of what's going on.
I have
and shout out from Richardson, by the way.
Oh yeah, I will see you at Faithless Forum. You've got to come. It's like 20 minutes away from Richardson, like 15 actually. We have to drive through Richardson to get there from my house. So yeah, Faithless Forum, April 7th, Dallas Children's Theater. We'll plug it a whole bunch more times.
I'm gonna be there as well.
Really?
Yeah. Thomas will be there, but yeah.
April 7th.
All right, guys.
What's it called?
It's Faithless Forum.
Faithless Forum. Okay, I gotta write that down. I'll forget.
I'm going to drop so you guys can bring more people on, but I appreciate the opportunity to come on.
We have a Facebook event as well. So,
yep.
I just wanted to add something to the last question, if that's okay.
Yeah. Do we need a GM Skeptic in it?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Thomas just wants you gone.
See you later, guys. See you later, GM.
I just want to make it fair to all my patrons because we're only going for about 2 hours, and so I want to get them all in. Also, welcome to Godless ION who just joined the chat. So, hello.
I just wanted to add that I think encouraging them to read is a good idea, because that's basically how I lost Christianity. It was
that's great.
Not through anybody.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, not through anybody like telling me about atheism or anything like that, but just like reading like National Geographic's, reading papers and stuff like that, and then and seeing how the Bible doesn't match up to those things, raise questions. So. And the parents are going to tell you, don't tell my kid not to read. So,
awesome. For everyone in the chat, because it's starting to fill up, to keep things orderly, what I've done is I've kind of muted everyone who's not fielding a question. If you have a question, just let me know in the group chat in Google Hangouts, and I will target it at you. try to target your questions at specific people. So if you have a question for me, ask me. If you have one for GC or Shannon, ask them, or for someone else in the chat. Just target your question at one, maximum 2 people. If you're wanting to join this chat and you've just now tuned in and you're in the, watching it on YouTube, you can go and join it at patreon.com/holykoolaid. As soon as you become a patron at any level, there's a link right at the top to join the Google Hangout, and it'll take you right into this video. Who would like to ask the next question?
No one has any more questions.
Don't jump all at once, please.
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm just curious for you guys. Does anyone else have grandparents? Mine aren't particularly elderly. They're in their upper 70s that are particularly Catholic. And one of the reasons I was a little bit nervous about talking earlier was, I mean, I don't think there's any way they're ever going to see this video, but being public is nerve-wracking for me because I'm pretty sure they would, like, that would be enough to kick the bucket for them. Have you guys had anything with that, or like feel? I think most people feel that the familiar connections are enough to.
Who's the question for?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was more for anyone who might have like some elderly family members who are especially religious, and you're nervous about disappointing them to the point of, actually just the degree of like severe disappointment, I suppose.
Well, I know that in my case, I just lost my last grandparent just a couple weeks ago. But she was the only one that was still alive by the time I became an atheist. And she was basically too old to even go online. But I think I don't know how many grandparents are, sifting through YouTube and watching a lot of YouTube videos.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I'm one of the early generation, I think, for my family. So my grandparents are relatively young, and it's terrifying how much they're perusing through Facebook, and I have to be careful. It's basically my point. I was just curious if anyone had any comments on that. That's all.
One thing that you can do is, I mean, if you're not posting YouTube videos, are you a YouTuber as well? Or you're just worried about, I think you muted your mic.
Yeah, no, it's more just about, being a little bit more public about stuff. I'm definitely pretty public about a lot of science-based and skepticism type stuff, but I've never crossed into the religion stuff on my Facebook.
One thing that you can do is on your Facebook page, you can set privacy settings on posts. So when you share stuff, you can have like public, and you can like click a drop down arrow and there's custom audience, and you can literally say everyone except for this person or everyone except for this list of people, and add grandparents and stuff in there. And so then you can feel free to share stuff. Just be really careful with that when you share it. Set the audience, because if you set the audience to public on one post and then you forget to set it back, then you might share something that talks about how all religious people are nuts, and your grandparents will be like, was your Facebook account hacked?
I can actually chime in on that because I'm gay and I'm out to, well, basically everybody. But when I came out to my parents, I told them specifically, I don't care who you tell, but don't tell my grandparents, because it would be like the end for them. They'd kick the bucket, right? So that's one thing I did. But like Thomas was saying, on Facebook, I created a group and I called it NGV, non-gay view. So anytime I'm posting anything that I don't want specific people to see, I just do, all friends except acquaintances and NGV list. So that's worked for me over the past decade. It hadn't been a problem. So that's probably gonna do you.
The one thing to kind of be wary about is if you share something with someone who's friends with them without realizing, like, let's say that maybe your aunt or your uncle see a post and they don't know that you're out as an atheist. They might come along and be like, whoa, and ask your grandparents, be like, why did he post this? Like, what's, so kind of be a little bit wary, a little bit careful.
Sure. Alice Ashton in the chat was mentioned that the friends of friends can often see things. So thanks, Alice.
I set up a specific Facebook profile completely separate from friends and family for sharing all my atheist stuff initially. And I kind of, that was my outlet. That was my way of venting. And then I became basically all my family found my stuff anyways. And I was like, well, once it's out, the cat's out of the bag. What's the point? So I'm pretty open. I don't rub my parents or my family members' face in it. I just assume that if if they want to see my stuff, they can. It's all out there, but I don't share it specifically with them.
Cool. All right. Thanks, man, for your time. I appreciate it. I'll hop off some make some room.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Godless Iowan, or would you like to field a question? I'm assuming that you're in Iowa.
I am in Iowa. I don't really have a question. I just want to say that I am so thankful for people like you who are out there and giving people courage to speak out. And, it's for videos and, people that are just kind like you that are out there that have given me courage to speak out and do my blog and my videos.
Anytime, man. I love being to.
I think we just made this.
I think that it needs to be more open. Are you? Were you a lifelong atheist, or did you transition out of more fundamentalist or more religious persuasion?
Oh, I was very fundamentalist. I came from a Pentecostal background. Shundla Mosetai Hadal is what I'll say right now. A little tongue talking. But I was a minister for about a decade in a Pentecostal church. And push came to shove, like Shannon Q said, cousin committed suicide. And I overheard women in the church saying he was in hell. And I could not rationalize that with a loving God. And so that was pretty much it for me.
I whenever I think of speaking in tongues, there's a video that I made a while back where I was juxtaposing cults right next to religions.
Yeah.
And I had a clip of Pastor Bob Tilton, and he's speaking in tongues. He's like, oh, and like going off in gibberish. And then I put that right next to a clip of Charles Manson going, and you put them right next to each other, and you can't tell which one's the preacher speaking in tongues and which one's the crazy lunatic.
I think they're probably a little bit of both. So both of them, when I was in the ministry, I just, I fell for it all. And, it's funny because right now I can speak in tongues and it still activates the same parts of my brain that it did when I was in the Pentecostal faith. It's weird.
Do you get like an adrenaline rush from that or something?
Oh, definitely. It gives you an adrenaline rush. It calms you. It gives you a euphoric feeling. It's kind of a trance-like state that you go into when you do that.
I'm euphoric that I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. What you do, all you have to do is just start babbling incoherently until it feels right.
I do that in videos. So.
That's a good story.
And I just want to say, Godless Iowan, that I really like your blog. It's so much better when I'm number one on the list. Just saying. I never want to lose the GMS again.
How much does he pay you to get the number one spot, Iowan?
His last check bounced, which is why, he's not been up there all that much. I think he won this week, but it was just because of Rachel Oates and Benjamin.
Well, see, I was number 7 on that list, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing because I'm like way at the top, or if that means that like of all the videos that like mine was kind of like, No.
The ranking is arbitrary.
I do have a question for Shannon, actually.
Oh, sure.
When you get to doing videos again, or when you get to doing them ever. Okay, I should only rephrase that. Yeah. When you make your videos, I was wondering, would you? Because I know you have a psychology background, right?
I do. There's a degree. Look, yay!
Okay, my question would be: have you ever thought about taking like characters in the Bible and like diagnosing them psychologically, like going through their symptoms and figuring out what exactly they would fall into, like what psychosis or disorder they might have?
That's interesting. No, but that's interesting.
Yeah. I've often wondered about that because I don't have a background in psychology, so I don't know much on it. I'm like, this sounds like schizophrenia, or this sounds like has a lot of the same symptoms for IED, or this has this, and it's like, but I don't know if that's true or not. It's just for what I know. I'm like, yeah. So I didn't know if you'd be interested in that.
It's an interesting point. I'm not sure I would, because it would be incredibly time consuming and a little bit arbitrary too, because from my perspective, that would be like diagnosing, Cinderella with narcissism, because I believe that they're fictional. So if I was to diagnose them with disorders, it would be, you know, it would be arbitrary based on, you know, it's like, you know, any fictional character from my perspective, giving them a diagnosis. I have thought, however, about looking at the psychological perspective of perceptions surrounding atheism and the psychological perspective on how people come to beliefs. Those are the two things that I'm toying with. And one of the difficulties for me, aside from being so involved with so many other channels and contributing in that way, you know, having a full-time job and a kid, is trying to figure out exactly what I want to do so that I can do it well and, you know, and contribute something more. I don't want to just post a video just because, like, okay, people want a video, so here you go. I did a thing. I want it to matter and to mean something. So.
Shannon, do you know if incoherent ramblings or babbling, talking to oneself, that's not on the DSM-5, is it?
Incoherent babbling in and of itself? No.
Because I mean, you can just be talking to yourself, you know, I'll be thinking about something or I'll be like watching TV and I'm like, whoa, I wonder how they did that. Like, did they do, and I might say it out loud to myself and I'm like processing as my inner voice. But, you know, Sam Harris had an interesting talk that he did on, if you were to say everything that you think out loud, it sounds insane. It's like, who are you talking to? It's like, oh, hey, it's sure is a nice thing that they left that water out there for me. It's like, who do you expect is you know,
right,
gonna hear that? And, you know, it's like the other you, no, like, but when people speak in tongues, it's just random words. It's gibberish. It's not any kind of language. It's nothing.
It mirrors an aphasia. It mirrors a form of aphasia, of verbal aphasia, but it's not in and of itself. It would be symptomatic of a number of different disorders.
Aphasia would be different because with aphasia, aren't they actually, they're trying to have a conversation, but just gibberish is coming out?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm impressed. Yes, that's absolutely right. Yeah, it depends on whether or not you have Wernicke's or Broca's aphasia, because one is incapable. One is the inability to process language, and the other is the inability to produce. So it mirrors aphasia in its manifestation, but because you're saying gibberish.
Yeah.
And there's different types of aphasia too. There's types of aphasia where you say things and they're words, where you'd be like hockey table, tree, and you're trying to say, hi, how are you today? Right. But you're still making words.
I'm not sure about aphasia, but my inner dialogue is pretty cool. So.
Oh my God. There aren't enough DSM-5s to diagnose that one.
It's funny because my fiance sometimes gives me trouble because I'll be driving or something and she'll be like, you have to talk to me. And I'll be like, well, what do you want to talk about? I was just thinking about something. Do you want to talk about what I was thinking about? And she'll be like, not really.
I was about ready to say, yeah, if you think GC is bad, you don't want to dive into my brain.
Oh, no.
It literally will go from, oh, hey, this is idea, and then go completely 180 to another one, and then back to, my brain's a maze.
You know, I think that if all of our stuff, if we were able to read everyone's minds and nothing was, you know, we had zero privacy, even the nicest, sweetest old people that seem completely innocent would totally be in jail. Because, like, I mean, all of us have, you know, little moments where, like, we say or think something and then we're like horrified and we're like, holy shit, how did that pop into my head? Or did I seriously just have a dream about that or something?
Wasn't there a movie that did that? It was about like mind reading, and then they started arresting people because they would think like that, like, I want to kill that person because they're in an argument with them or something, and then they would arrest them, but then in reality they never would have done it, right? Like it was just a fantasy, right?
Or you think, you know, oh, I wonder if I could pull off that bank heist or assassination.
Yeah.
Now I'm totally gonna get like locked up.
Someone's gonna clip that out.
Saswat Mishra in the chat said thought crime. I mean, that's pretty much what 1984 was all about. You know, welcome Cody to the chat.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Where are you joining us from? We can hear you.
Awesome, fantastic. I'm from the US. I'm from Wisconsin.
I feel for you. Too cold there.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I'm another small YouTuber, atheist YouTuber. I got about 1,000 subs almost.
Oh, cool.
So
Fun.
yeah.
What's your
What's
channel?
your channel called?
Dark Illusions.
Go find
Were
it.
you by any chance at either the FFRF conference or Mythicist Milwaukee this year?
I was not. No, I wanted to go, but I work full time, and it's kind of
Because Godless Engineer, who's in the chat, him and Caitlin Chloe were up there. I went up there as well.
Really?
For, MythCon. I wanted to do FFRF, but I couldn't make it that week.
Gotcha.
I wound up. I drove over to Madison, where Dan Barker and Annie Laurie Gaylor have the FFRF location. They actually have a really nice building, and they're the lawyers and stuff fighting against religious insanity.
You might want to rethink your channel name, because I just looked up Dark Illusions, and the video that comes up is Grandma has a hairy coochie.
Wait, what?
That is not what I got. You and I have very different search history. Oh my god!
Same thing happened.
Is there a way I can link you?
You do it
like
in the
that
chat.
Yeah,
There's
here.
a group chat on the sidebar.
All right, I'll do that.
I feel man, I feel really outnumbered here. I only have 89 subs.
Oh god.
I'm a little dinky. I'm the small fish in the ocean here.
You have good little live streams though. I watched one the other day.
Yeah, I try to have fun.
Oh come on. Just but if I have time, I'll come on. I promise you what I will.
Yeah, just let me know whenever. I have a pretty open schedule. Evenings work best, so.
Oh yeah, that is not my channel.
Pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I try to.
Those look interesting.
I just want to entertain people while talking about things I like. So that's the point of my channel. So I'm glad Shannon liked it.
I think the difference is like
it's hard to please.
I haven't examined your channel, but one thing I've noticed a lot of times with smaller versus bigger channels is if you just make videos for yourself and you're just wanting to kind of like talk
have
about
fun
what you enjoy and you want to have a good time, you might put out a gaming video one day, the next video is you gardening in your backyard, and then the next video is some talk about atheism. People aren't going to sub. They're never going to sub to a channel like that.
Okay.
You have to be very, very focused. So like have I'm gonna mute Duke real quick. I'm getting some feedback. But you have to have stuff that is very on topic. So have one channel that's just all about gaming, and
okay.
I'm
that's good.
Just about atheism.
I'm actually trying to. I actually created a new channel strictly for the gaming side of the things I do. The rest is more just focused on atheism and going through other arguments and looking at things. Like the last stream that I'm guessing Shannon might have caught was one I had RJ on, and I talked with him about a video we were going through, and just this guy was just laughable, I guess is the best way to describe it.
But yeah, if you have, and I've done this a little bit with my channel, is I've had some videos that are like, a little bit more about like debunking alternative medicine and pseudoscientific woo. And then I have other videos that are about, just purely atheism and religion. And there's so much overlap there, so I think I can get away with it. But if you start straying too far outside of your niche and your videos, a lot of people will start tuning out because they didn't come to your channel. They didn't sub to your channel initially to see that.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, originally I started off being like music videos, then I kind of branched out and did more, and I've kind of gotten away from that, where I'm focusing more on, like I said, the atheism stuff. I'm actually working on a few scripts right now for some history lectures, so hopefully, because I love American history, and I figured atheism and history aren't too far off from each other, so I can maybe get away with it. So it's where I talk about historical figures and the importance they had in American history, especially the Revolution and or events that aren't highly talked about.
Oh, Cody, I think I found your channel. Is it Elu Zions?
Yeah, it's spelled with Z's. I made it when I was like
clever.
But I mean,
very clever. Yeah, I found it. Okay, perfect. You did and you did a mirror of GC's Imagine a World video.
I did.
Oh,
I
nice.
did.
It's right beside Grandpa has a hairy.
And it was actually because
you have to be ashamed of yourself.
I need to mirror that. Thanks for reminding me, Shannon. I've been meaning to mirror that for a while. I just haven't.
Yeah, don't do it. Do it up.
You know, it's funny because my mirror of that video got like a lot. I think like it got more exposure than most of my other videos. So I was like,
that's where I originally saw it was your channel.
I was just trying to help out GC. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, holy crap, like this video is actually doing really well. Hey, GC, do you want to get more of your videos flagged? I can mirror any of them that you want.
Somebody, I think it was KOism, actually did a thing where he went to like all the different channels that he could find that mirrored that video. And the views were like way more than my original video got. I think
none of them got flagged.
Yeah, like my original video had like I think 11,000 views or something, but like all of them put together were like over like 30,000 views. It was like amazing. So
wow,
yeah, and they're all going to be there forever now.
Title. I was like, YouTube just censored this atheist.
Well, it got censored again. It's already on
the same video or a different one.
No, the same video because it was still on my channel, but it was put in limited state, and I got another email like a couple of days ago that said, "Oh, look, this has been limited again." Right?
Oh my god!
How does it get more limited than like complete?
It's the same countries. It's the same email. So I was like, "Oh my god, how does this happen?" But all the other ones, like you said, Thomas, that that video passed moderation, like passed a review. So
yeah, no, I had a manual review on it and I submitted it to YouTube and I got it passed, and I even tweeted at YouTube and I'm like, well, what the hell's up with this double standard?
It's so weird. I don't understand.
Do you ever feel like YouTube, or well, I want to say just YouTube, but social platforms are against, I don't want to say against atheism, but I mean, do you think it's definitely censored in some ways? It is controversial, I get, but I mean, what do you guys think, about that? Do you think that like social platforms are purposefully censoring atheists for some sort of religious agenda?
I would say no. Personally, on me, I've seen Christian videos get flagged, and I've seen atheist videos get flagged. Religion really is in all honesty, on anything, it's a touchy subject for no matter what platform you're dealing with. Right. So I don't think it has to do with so much as is atheism as it falls into the religion category, and it's therefore almost becomes a hot potato to handle no one wants to hold on to.
Here's an interesting thing, though. Here's something that happened today that is an example of why I think that might be a good argument where I maybe wouldn't have until today. So for Apologia's channel, we uploaded a sample. We live in different locations. He recently did something. The video will be coming out tomorrow. He uploaded it to YouTube. It's essentially kind of in like private mode or whatever, like unlisted, so that I could see it and just sent me the link. I've done that before too, to send GC stuff. So he did it to me. I wasn't able to get to it to watch it for an hour or two. And when I watched it, I sent him a screen capture saying, ha ha ha, this is hilarious. It's monetized. It was monetized, and there was a religious advertisement on it. So I sent him a screen capture of it. So the edited version of it today, and that one had 1 view, 2 actually, me and him. We were the ones who viewed that video, and it was monetized. The edited version of it was uploaded today. The only differentiating factor is essentially length, and so some of the dialogue is essentially cut out of it. So it's actually less than it was prior when it was monetized, when it was in private mode. The only difference is that it had the tags added to it to upload it.
Yeah.
It was instantly demonetized.
And I wonder if that would.
How does that happen?
I'm wondering what the tags were, because they might have like
atheism.
Okay. I would say that I've even seen I know someone who's a Christian and they run a YouTube channel, and I've put Christianity in my tags in immediately without even putting atheism. I've had Christian, ID, creationism, and some of my videos in the tags, and it's immediately back when I was able to monetize. I can't anymore.
Demonetize.
Immediately yellow $. Never got anything So I think it's they look for those tags, and it's anything that could be a quote unquote hot potato issue. It's cover your butt.
Better
It's
safe than
better.
sorry.
Yeah.
I think you're
that
taking a
might be
lot more of a
motivating.
chance. I think you're taking a lot more of a chance if you're covering Islam than you are Christianity.
Every video that I have ever made about Islam
Gets yellowed.
is demonetized, and they always get demonetized after, like, when I release a video, it pushes it out to my subscribers. I get however many, big surge of views I'm going to get, and then there's like about a 24 to 48 hour period where after that it really drops down. And if you don't get, like, a couple weeks goes by, and if you don't get 1,000 views within like the last week, then you cannot appeal the demonetization status because you're not getting enough views in. And so I have videos that they got demonetized after that period of time, and I've appealed them, but I'm just not getting enough views on them. And so,
and to me, that hurts.
Just I have, like, one thing is an atheist, and that one's demonetized. But the Islam ones 100% of the time got demonetized. The one that I was able to appeal in time got turned back negative. But they said that, because that one was about a tragedy, I understand that they don't want people, monopolizing or gaining money off of a tragedy, but they kind of have a double standard because bigger channels have been able to do that. And
I would actually, and I would argue against that is I had because I tried my hand in news things where I read and give my opinion. It was kind of like a talk thing. Tried my hand in that once. Didn't work out that well. It's just like it's too much work trying to do school, and that didn't work. But I have one where literally it was monetized back when I could because of being a small channel. Now I don't get it. But when it was about a mom who killed her 5-year-old daughter, and I was very, very vocal, very passionate on that. But the story about a person who she filed a false rape report and was busted for it, that one got demonetized. Yet the one about the mom, which gave a lot more graphic detail of how the mom, I believe, was punched the daughter and talked about the damaged organ, like what was damaged in her body, that one was allowed to be. I just don't understand YouTube's algorithm half the time.
I mean,
so.
How much of it is done by bots, and how much is actual people?
Almost 100%
I think
bots.
Yeah, I would say bots. So it's
being
Is
reviewed.
it not reviewed by people after
Unless
the
it's
bot
able to be reviewed, with 1,000 views or whatever it is.
yeah.
I don't
So
think so.
I don't get, like I said, it's the algorithms that they use that are squirrely as anything.
One thing to understand too is, like, their algorithms are constantly changing. I think like last year they made like several thousand changes to the YouTube algorithm. They're constantly testing and modifying, and they're trying to improve it, and they're trying to make it better, but there's always going to be some stuff. And as much as I'm pissed off sometimes when, like, my videos get demonetized and I feel like, this isn't fair or some great injustice has been done, like, I for the most part, I'm pretty happy with YouTube being, allowing me to have a platform to have an audience. It kind of sucks that my videos are being limited now. I posted the same video to Facebook, and in the last 2 days, I've gotten, I think in the last 24 hours, I got 160,000 views on it, and I got 5,000 on YouTube. So I do feel like my reach is being limited. But it's I don't know. It just I still am grateful for it, and it's still one of the best tools out there.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that with go ahead.
I was just agreeing with Holy Koolaid here that it is a great platform, and I'm grateful for it because, I mean, really, in all honesty, I can't quite do so much on my Facebook page because you live in such a rural area, and I've already at times become a social pariah with people who I know because I'm an atheist. Which is fine by me. I'm a hermit, so I don't really care. I'm perfectly happy to stay in my house and not be bothered. But I can't be as vocal as I am on, like, my channel, and actually it does. And I just figured I got a mic, a channel, a big mouth, and an opinion. Why not exercise it? That was my opinion. But actually, I would say the story of the one girl when I was doing the news, the girl who died. Actually, there's some comments on there that really, really, touched me that I it actually considered going back to doing news stories, because someone commented and said, thank you for telling your story. Someone did it. I love the passion and fire that you have, even if I might not agree with some of the language choices, but you're coming from a passionate point of view, because they knew her and they correct me on how to pronounce her name, because it was a weirder name. It was like Raisha, or I don't have to look at it, but I mean, when they commented and said, yes, I knew her, she was very kind in that. Thank you for what you said. It was like, wow, I just did it because I had an opinion on the story. I wasn't expecting, someone who knew her to come and talk to me on that. And I'm like, that was, yeah.
I found a lot of times that when you cover news stories like that, like when I did the Save Amna story about the Muslim girl, I didn't get a ton of exposure for that video. I didn't get a ton of positive feedback, but it was one of the most rewarding videos to make.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to spice up your not spice up is the bad word, but like mix up your channel a little bit with stuff like that. And at the same time, at the end of the day, like, I do this full time. I have to pay my bills. So like there is a lot of pressure to make videos that are going to pull an audience and that are going to get views, that are going to be sensational. And I don't like making videos about a tragedy or a tragic situation to monopolize about it or capitalize on it. I want to make those videos to give exposure to that.
Yeah.
And then make the other videos like the ones about David Wolf. That's just like, this guy's a goofy nut. Those ones are the ones that I want to like take off, and I'm doing them more kind of as like, it's viral, it's trending, it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the Aisha, the one about the girl who died. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce the name because I don't remember it. But like I found that one buried in the Yahoo News area, and I'm like, this should be getting. I'm like, why haven't I heard about this? Why isn't anyone talking about this? I have friends who live in this area. Why aren't they talking about it? I'm like, it was just, because at the time, I was going to school, but I also was working as a bus monitor. So, I mean, I dealt with kids, and I'm, being a sub now. So I deal with kids on a fairly regular basis. And I look at it as like, what if this was one of the kids who was on my bus? Or now, what if this was one of the kids who I teach? I mean, it's just, I wasn't so much that I wanted to do that story. I mean, I was looking for news stories to read and kind of get my commentary on, but it's just that one I felt like almost I needed to do that. Someone needed to say something on her behalf, because I felt not enough people were speaking out on her behalf. And I'm like, it's something, that I needed to say.
Yeah. And a lot of stuff like that, we'll get exposure more through stuff like YouTube. Real quick, we have Duke has joined the chat, and he's been in for a little while, and I wanted to say hi, welcome him to the conversation. We still have this open to anyone who's a patron who wants to go and join. We have a Google Hangout link, but Duke, I'm going to unmute you real quick because we were getting a little bit of feedback. But tell us real quick where you're calling from.
He's muted.
I'm trying to unmute, but it's not letting me. I don't know if he has a mic.
Oh, he might have himself muted on the other end.
Yeah, if he has himself muted, then I can't unmute him. All right, and in the meantime, Godless Cranium, why is Tim Hortons the best donut place?
Just the best coffee place.
Oh, so the donuts are shit.
No,
yeah, I don't really eat donuts, but the coffee is the best, and it's the cheapest for the value, I guess. So.
I actually, when I was up there, I went to Tim Hortons for the first time, and I was pretty impressed. It was not bad.
Was it roll up the rim? That's the best time to go. Roll through. Oh, geez, you Americans don't know what that is. Roll the rim right now. Roll the rim. You roll up the rim of your coffee, and you can win like a car. You can win like all different prizes.
Oh no, they didn't give me a car.
No, Jesus Christ, American. Don't get
it. Hey, Shannon, don't knock on us Americans.
You guys already have like free health care. Now you're passing out free cars to everyone at donut shops.
I love how Americans call it free, like nobody pays taxes here.
It's not free.
Yeah.
It's not free. Hey, in Ontario, where Mike lives, there's a 1.95% tax on anybody who runs a business on your payroll. If it's under $450,000, you pay 1.95% of everything you pay to your employees directly to the Ministry of Finance, and that funds the healthcare system there.
Oh wow. How do they collect taxes? You know, they just like
payroll.
The Queen of England comes and beats you with your cane.
No, payroll. Through payroll. It's all through payroll.
Holy Kool-Aid, that would be John Adams, I believe, if I remember correctly. Don't you know your American history?
Oh no, I'm saying in Canada, you know, because the Mounties, you know, all you got to do is have a car, you can outdrive them. You're still a part.
They
of
have cars
Commonwealth,
too.
right?
They're not all on horses.
Some
of them have cars.
There was like a Canadian Tire commercial a few years ago that had like it was like a Canadian car chase, and it was like cops spinning their tires, and then the people that they were chasing spinning their tires, and one guy pushing.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, now I want to see that commercial. That sounds
Criminal
so
gets out of the car and pushes the cops.
Yeah, it's so good.
That's so
It looks like
Canadian.
Duke is now unmuted.
Oh, is that the Duke?
Yeah.
Is that Duke Bonanza?
Yeah.
This is Duke Bonanza.
I love Duke
Although I don't know.
Bonanza.
Yeah, I was just
What's going on, guys?
You guys are just too nice. You Canadians are too nice. You need to get a little more fiery and passionate. I mean, all Canadian YouTubers are way too nice.
All right, real quick, Duke, where are you calling from?
Rural Florida.
Rural Florida.
Yes, sir. In the middle of God's
Let's
country.
go to you.
Yes. I'm a bit of a closeted atheist out in the community here because I just don't want to have a big kick me sign on my back.
Yeah. Do you have any family members that are out?
No, I'm the only black jelly bean in the jar, man. I'm the only atheist in my family. I'm the only person. Like, I know one atheist person personally, locally. Other than that, everybody else loves Jesus, man.
Have any of you guys checked out? I have a resource on my website for how to, find an atheist community near you, and I have a bunch of different links. Have any of you been able to use that to find a local community, or have you seen it?
I've seen it.
Have you
I checked it out
and seen anything, or are you too rural to be able to be near any of
Well, I'm the closest to me, I think, is in Jacksonville, and I'm about an hour and a half away from there. And I've just been super busy, so I can't ever get over there to do anything. But I definitely am planning on it in the future. I've got some family that lives in Jacksonville, so sometime when I'm over there visiting with them, I'm going to try to hook up on something.
Yeah. I'll put a link to that in the description after this is done. But yeah, there's if you go to holykoolaid.com, I think it's like atheist community or something along those lines. You can find there's a bunch of different tools there to help people find an atheist community. But I found it's very difficult if you're in a rural area to find anything, because like most cities will put together something and it'll at least be small. There'll be like maybe 50 people or 100 people, skeptics in the pub or Oasis or something.
Because here's the thing, like central Wisconsin, where I'm at, in northern Wisconsin, is a very conservative Republican type of, Jesus loving.
Yeah.
You get the drill. But then you go down to like southern Wisconsin, like Madison, La Crosse, Milwaukee. They're extremely liberal, and that's actually why Wisconsin votes liberally in almost every election, is because of down there.
Because they aren't gerrymandering properly yet, the Republicans.
Yeah. And I would say this for like finding a group. Duke, I don't know where exactly you are in rural Florida, but if you have any like larger schools, like universities, look there. They might have, like, I know where I am, up near K-State. They have, and which is where I'll be going for school next semester when I go for my engineering degree. I know that they have a free thought group, and so I'm part of, like, look on Facebook too, see if there's any groups you can be a part of there as well, because it's that's usually going to be your best bet. That's how I found the K-State one, is looking through there, and I plan on when I get to K-State to do more with be more of a part of the group, since I'll actually be able to go, because they're about 20 miles from me, and I don't drive.
Gosh. Actually, now that you say that, I just searched on Facebook for Central Wisconsin atheist groups, and there's actually one that's about 45 minutes away from me.
Yeah, see, that's
You want to.
So I mean, yeah, like I said, Facebook is a great tool for that. Just like I said, especially like you mentioned Madison. I'm sure that University of Wisconsin-Madison has something there. They're a big school.
Absolutely.
So just if you have like a big, well-known university, like where I'm going, where I'll be going, K-State or Kansas University or University of Madison. I don't know where you live in Florida, but like maybe University of Central Florida or Florida University or whatever down there. If you're anywhere near them, I would suggest looking at them, seeing what you can find.
A lot of times there's secular student alliance groups, but real quick, I want to kind of bring it back on track because we have our two guests here in the conversation, Shannon Q and Godless Cranium, for people just now tuning in. They are Canadian atheists talking about their life and the differences up in Canada. If you want to join this conversation, you can do so through Patreon, become a patron of Holy Koolaid and join in. But Godless Cranium, somebody asked me a minute ago, they said, do you guys ever, what was the question? I'm trying to find it.
You're fired.
Yeah, I lost it, but it had something to do with, do you guys ever have maple syrup chugging contests?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Probably Godless engineers.
Like we have Tide Pod challenges.
Yeah.
At least ours aren't deadly.
I don't know. Have you tasted Canadian maple syrup? I know someone who has and said that it is diabetes waiting to happen. So I don't know.
I'm
pretty sure that they have.
Have you ever gone tree tapping? No, you have to have gone tree tapping.
Someone who said that they had Canadian maple syrup said it was super, super sweet.
Well, it was
it's maple syrup, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Canada are just super sweet.
That's what.
Yeah, we just lick them. We just walk out of our house and we're just like, we just lick the trees.
That's what my friend told me. So I can't say much on that.
We're basically giving fellatio to the trees. Just saying.
Yeah, I think super sweet is a prerequisite for syrup.
GC, thanks for that image. I do not need that image.
That's just essentially what he walks around doing to everything. So don't think the trees are special.
Well, we got one more person. The chat is full.
I will.
If it's full, I'll go ahead and drop out. I haven't been saying anything.
Okay, we'll drop. We'll cycle you guys out in the order.
So I'll leave. See ya. Thanks for having me on.
Well, hey, thank you so much for joining. We'll have to check out your channel.
All right, thanks.
Evita, is that? Am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah, you are.
Welcome. Where are you calling in from?
South Dakota.
Oh, fantastic.
They're American.
That's practically Canada.
Almost Canada.
Down here, we call it, everything north of the Mason-Dixie line are Yankees. So
yes,
I just offended my entire Patreon base.
Everything north of North Carolina.
Are you surrounded by a lot of religion in North?
Yes, absolutely. South
Dakota. Okay.
The good one.
The good one.
Yeah, South Dakota. It's so religious here. But we have a local atheist group that we all hang out, get coffee, stuff like that. I'm not super active in it anymore, just because like social anxiety, stuff like that.
I got you.
Yeah, well, but it's a lot of fun.
You always have a welcome home, in the YouTube atheist community, watching videos and hanging out and engaging with us on social media. We stay pretty active.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'd just like to thank all you guys for doing what you do and keeping us atheists out here in the world sane. We're not alone.
You're not.
What we don't tell you is that we're doing it to keep ourselves sane.
Too late.
Too late.
GC is just going to pay the fines for licking all the trees and the inanimate objects.
Is that how he does maple syrup tapping?
Tap that tree.
You have to be careful in the
winter. Trees.
I'll get stuck to it.
Well, that's when you have to do it. You have to do it in the wintertime. You guys don't know anything. Do you guys know anything?
We don't have winter down here.
No, we do not have winter down here.
And you let it drip onto the snow, and then you pick it up with a stick, and you eat it like a popsicle. You guys don't do things right. I don't understand.
No, don't eat the yellow snow, man.
It's amber colored snow.
Don't you listen to Frank Zappa at all?
No. I do not. One of the things I do not do.
So I was wondering, I'll field this one to Shannon, but is it difficult finding atheist groups up there, or what resources do you guys have for Canada?
It absolutely is where I am. I'm in a smaller province with a lower population base. In the city, I found a Facebook group that is active for CFI in the city. They don't really have a skeptic in the pub thing. They have a reading group where they're all kind of like, it's like a book club essentially. That was the closest thing I found, and that's about 45 minutes away from me. There's nothing really in the rural base, but luckily, I have a very outgoing personality, so it was relatively easy for me to just, go online and be like, "I'm here now. This is what's happening. I'm gonna do all these things."
Y'all better come to me.
Yeah, that's right. Guess what? Mic drop. I'm here, everybody. Is everybody ready? Because here I am. But if you're not as open and as interested in going out, it's a little bit more difficult. But I would suggest what I did find was that this community is incredibly welcoming. Like there's a new, I guess, within the past couple of years, like 3 to 5 years, breed of YouTubers that are kind of that have adopted me into their group as I've started to come out and be more active, that are very, very welcoming. Thomas and GC, GE, genetically modified skeptic, Apology, of course. I like him a little bit. And there's some other really great YouTubers that have all kind of banded together and are really active on social media and working to help people connect. Like Thomas, your website is great for that. And we're all really active on Twitter. So that's what would help me, I think, because I was able to find that outlet and, commiserate with people who were like-minded. And if you do have a little bit of social anxiety, or if you are in a community where it's not as easy to come out, I would suggest that as a good starting off point. You might be surprised who you end up finding. Right. That way. You might find somebody who is closer to you and who you might be able to connect with.
That's part of the reason.
We kind of have to stick together these days, man. We're stronger than we've ever been, And at this point in time, it is very, very important to just push back, and just try to get in there, get our fingers in the cracks and pull the thing apart. It's just important, So it's really good that we're all, able to converse with one another and get out here and talk.
Right.
That's part of
I think in Ontario, like where I am, you can find humanist groups more than you could find atheist groups. So you could go that route instead.
Mm-hmm.
I think wasn't CFI based in Toronto?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's that was a really good point though, Duke. I think a lot of times I hear this negative feedback that like, oh, the atheist movement is dead and feminism and social justice killed it or something. I'm like, no, we had a kind of a splinter in the same way that every single religious group ever has splinters. As it grows, they find points where there's a little bit of a different ideology or different perspective. And I'm like, I think all of us still agree with the fact that, there should be separation of church and state. And we don't want, religion running government. We don't want a theocracy. We don't want, a Christian government any more than we want a Muslim government or a Hindu government. We just want a secular government that cares about humanistic values and principles. And that is what unites us. Yeah, some of us believe that we should have equality across the board for people, that we shouldn't be bigots or homophobes or racists, and that tends to be more common in the atheist movement than it does in religious circles that have books that tell them why they should be bigots. But yeah, I think while we have our differences, some of us might be pro-gun, anti-gun, some of us might be pro-abortion, anti-abortion. I think we all are able to unify around the fact that whatever positions we come to politically, they should be based in reason and critical thinking and not in dogma and not in religious BS that people are shoving down our throats. And so
I think another thing I think, and it's a confusing thing, I think a lot of times, when I'm talking with atheists and it comes up with religion, there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions to questions, and at least in America with the separation of church and state, really what that means is just that the state can't make special exception for or against religion. You know what I mean? So you can't say you can't do this because you're a religion, and you can't say, you can only do this because you're a religion. right? And so a lot of the time that seems to be like a splintering place off where people get mad at each other over just like silly differences about what rights the religious should or shouldn't have, and I think it's something that everybody needs to kind of educate themselves on. Not everybody, but people really should kind of look deeper into what the legality of the separation of church and state is, and keep that in mind. You know what I mean? Because one of the things I'll see is that like Atheist Republic will ask, should churches be taxed? And the immediate reaction is just yes, 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 yes. But I mean, churches don't get a special tax exemption just because they're churches. They have to apply for nonprofit and they have to meet the criteria, right? So if they can, they should be allowed to because the First Amendment has the
no taxation without representation.
And the freedom and the free practice. The free practice clause is in there. So you can't say, well, you're a religion, so you can't apply for this. But you also can't say, well, you're going to be tax-free just because you're a religion. No, but you actually have to meet the criteria.
The difference is that religions are not 501c3s. They are taxed completely separately. Yes, they are nonprofit, but unlike a 501c3, a religious organization does not have to disclose their books. And so they can literally take in millions of dollars and funnel it all into to various corners and cubbyholes that should not be tax exempt. They might spend only 5% of their budget on actual charity work. They might only spend a tiny, tiny percent on, actually funding things that should be deemed nonprofit. But there's absolutely, it is the most opaque wall that, religious organizations exclusively have an exemption on. And so I think that's where a lot of us get frustrated is like, yeah, if they're performing charity work and they're giving, feeding the homeless and stuff, I have no problem with that being tax exempt. But the fact that they don't report any of their books and that they don't have to, for me, it strikes me as extremely borderline money laundering.
And kind of what Shannon said is no taxation without representation. As soon as they start getting taxed, how does that play in with representation in government then? Does that not violate separation of church and state then? And isn't that why we have it in the first place?
Well, if they're paying taxes, I have no problem with them, endorsing certain political candidates.
Okay.
And a lot of people were freaking out about the Johnson Amendment being repealed. Now, the biggest thing for me, for people not familiar with the Johnson Amendment, it did two things. First of all, it allowed people to nominate candidates from the pulpit. But the second thing was that it allowed churches to support candidates financially. And so because their books are closed, they could essentially become these massive multi-million-dollar super PACs funneling money into political campaigns with zero oversight, with absolutely zero transparency. So if they're going to endorse candidates from the pulpit, and a lot of churches will literally send letters to the IRS saying, "Go ahead, I dare you revoke my tax exempt status. I endorse this political candidate." And they're taunting them, and the IRS has never, ever, ever revoked a church's tax exempt status, even though they're technically violating the rules of the game. And it's just that the IRS doesn't want to get its hands dirty because political powers or the religious powers are so massive, and they get a huge amount of blowback. They'd be going after, it'd be an attack on religious freedom, and but. Yeah, I don't mind if they endorse political candidates if they're willing to pay taxes. If they're not willing to pay taxes, no, they should not be allowed to. Right. And if they're going to be able to, put any kind of money behind a political candidate, it should be completely transparent, and they should follow all the rules of any kind of political donor. So
that's interesting. I don't know, because a lot of the pastors I've known have told me that they have to play pretty close to the margin with their books. They you know what I mean, that they do have to have an accountant, have to keep up with all that. But and the research I did on it, when I looked it up, I didn't see any of that, but I'll look into it deeper.
Yeah, I know that David Silverman, his book Fighting God, he goes really deep into the legal, or he doesn't go super deep into it, but he talks about the legal differences, and that American Atheist has been pushing back against that for some time.
I just wanted to correct, though, you said that the IRS has never gone after a church, which is actually not true.
They haven't revoked their tax-exempt status for endorsing a political candidate.
Well, the IRS is. It says here in a Reuters thing that says the IRS has not always been quiet. In 1992, went after the church at Pierce Creek in Birmingham, New York, which had bought a full-page newspaper ad opposing then Democratic presidential nominee Bill Clinton. The church lost its IRS tax-exempt status.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I know
I'll leave a link in the thing.
There was a massive push where churches were coming out in droves and supporting candidates from the pulpit.
Yeah, well, it says that they're being silent now, but that was in 1992, so it was a while ago.
Yeah, so.
Well, no, technically, if they break the rules, they should definitely lose their. If they break the rules, they should definitely lose their tax exempt status. But I'm just saying that if they can meet criteria to be tax exempt, they should be allowed to be.
Yeah, I just think that the rules are a little bit skewed in favor of religious organizations.
Well, but that's the truth in everything in America. I mean, the rules are skewed towards religion in every way.
Yeah, no, and
that's kind of what we are.
The difference is I'm not going to take that sitting down. I think if it's not right or if it's not just, then I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to expose it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, and I agree with that. I agree with that completely. I just don't agree that if they can meet the criteria, they should be allowed to. Like, I don't think you can say just because you're a religion, you can't say, all right, you're a religion, so you can't apply for certain things.
No, but that's not what I'm in.
Does that make sense?
And I said that, if they have, reason to be tax exempt, if they're a nonprofit or they're, performing some type of service or something, I have no problem with religious organizations or religious people gaining tax exempt status. I just think that they should follow the same rules as regular 501c3s.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
All right. Well, we've been going for about 2 hours, so I think we're about ready to wrap it up. But real quick, we got Sharni joining us, just joined in. Welcome. Sorry, we.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, Sharni.
Where are you calling from?
Melbourne, Australia.
Oh, nice.
Welcome.
Is it as crazy there as it is here?
Sorry?
Is it as crazy there as it is here in the southern U.S. and in Canada?
No, thankfully not, but it depends on where you are. In the inner cities, it's pretty good, but if you go rural, it can get a bit weird.
Amen.
So if you're an atheist out in the outback, you could end up in all kinds of trouble if you come out with it. Although I don't think it would be as bad as it is in the American South.
Well, you know why that is, right? Because you're exporting your Ken Hams over to us.
Oh, yeah, stop doing that.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about Ken Ham. I'll take him back if I could. I'll take him back if I could. Only to get him out of the South where he can get his money.
That's fair.
Is Ray Comfort from Australia or New Zealand?
New Zealand.
No idea.
Okay.
He's New Zealand.
I thought that there's another big, crazy... It's like you guys are sending us missionaries. We don't need them. We have enough people here.
Sorry.
Although it's funny because apparently Presbyterianism is really big in South Korea, and they send missionaries regularly to the United States. I found that kind of interesting. But
yeah. Well, I don't really know about South Korea specifically, but the part of Australia where I live in, Melbourne, is probably one of the most progressive parts of the country. I'm like in inner Melbourne, the inner CBD. So this is basically hipster central.
So it's like our Portland.
Pardon?
It's like our Portland.
Yeah, maybe.
You've ever seen the show Portland?
I don't know anything about Portland, so I can't make that comparison.
It's where all the hipsters spawned.
Okay, yes, then that would be the equivalent of Portland. And there are coffee shops absolutely everywhere.
Sounds right.
Are you surrounded by are there other secular groups and organizations in Melbourne? Is it easy to find a skeptics group or a atheist group, or is it just
yes, it is.
People don't really talk about or don't think about because they just assume everyone is pretty secular?
There are atheist groups, but that's more for people who are struggling to come out and things like that. I've been to them a couple of times, but a good deal of the people there are a great deal older than me, and I have trouble talking with them. And I just lost interest in going eventually. But I think that's just because it's pretty easy to be out, at least here in Melbourne. Oh, that's how it's pronounced, Melbourne, not Melbourne.
So it's not like the Melbourne identity.
No, it's Melbourne. Sorry
Awesome.
with the Australian pronunciations and all.
I've been wanting for some time to go to Australia, and I think you guys had like a big Skepticon with like Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse Tyson or someone big.
I think we do have a Skepticon every few years or so. I don't know the precise details of that, I'm afraid. But the skeptical movement is growing here. But yeah, where I came from before I came to Melbourne, Adelaide, that's a bit more religious than Melbourne is. So, and all my family is there, so I couldn't find an opportunity to go to the atheist conventions and stuff that were there. Not that there were conventions. I'm sorry, I'm misspeaking. Talking more about atheists in the pub, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm going to field this question to Shannon, but do you guys get as much of the crazy whack job mysticism and like kind of new age hippie woo where like people believe in like aligning your chakras and hippie crystals and stuff like that? Do you get that as much? Because I target that some in my videos, and I've done it more recently. But I think that there's so much overlap between that and religion, and a lot of times you'll have atheists who they're like, oh, I'm not religious, I'm not Christian, but I buy into all of the new, kind of new age post-colonial veneration of Eastern mysticism and Eastern religions. And I think that it can be just as harmful when people start turning to that instead of science-based modern medicine.
Absolutely.
You get that a lot in Canada?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, and I'm a mom. I don't know if you've ever been a part of a Facebook mom group, but oh my God, wow. The things that I've been told to give the things I've been told to give my son when he has a flu or a cold, or the things he's been diagnosed with by people.
Have you gotten him a urine vaccine?
I think Genetically Modified Skeptic spoke about this recently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the first thing I thought when I saw that video was about my aunt who looks at natural news, who thought homeopathy was okay until I told her it was bullshit. Basically, I've been annoying the crap out of her with that kind of thing lately.
There was an amazing video on homeopathy put out by the Kurzgesagt YouTube channel. If you search,
I've seen that.
They have like this animated channel. They have millions of views, and they just completely ripped apart homeopathy, but they do it in like the most like nice, friendly, objective, science-based way. So
yes, I think they said that to get a pill at 30C potency, the pill would be so huge that it would collapse into a black hole under its own weight.
Yeah, that's funny. Here's another thing that people don't think about too with the prevalence of it is that a lot of it is direct marketing stuff. So because I'm a mom, I see it a lot more because there's a lot of moms who either stay-at-home moms or are looking to supplement their income, that they sell things like natural oils that will,
my aunt does that,
or vitamin supplements. Right, exactly. Or aromatherapy. Like all of these things are sold, or facial treatments that are supposed to help your skin. And I mean, my son has psoriasis. I'm sorry, I'm not buying something from your direct sales, public social media marketing.
Yeah, my aunt tried to get me in. Believe it or not, my aunt actually tried to get me to replace my antidepressants with
don't do that.
With homeopathic medicine, but I absolutely refused. Mostly because hang on, it was not homeopathy. I don't remember what it's called. The herb one.
Right.
The
herbal remedies.
Marijuana.
Yeah,
you better chance with that. Actually,
to a herbal remedy version, but I basically refused. I bought like one bottle because she was flat broke and needed to pay her rent. But that was the only bottle I ever bought from her, and it basically just went straight into the trash.
Okay, promise me you will not transition off your antidepressants at all. Promise me that. Just promise.
I'm not
never, but don't. That's something that needs to be done with moderate.
Look, I know that. I mean, I've had depression problems since forever. I've even had problems with suicidal thoughts. I know better than to go off those meds.
Fantastic.
A psychologist, so
yeah, that's something that needs to be done in steps with a lot of professional intervention in order to be able to be done effectively, because it messes with all of your neurotransmitters and deregulates your entire body when you do it. So it needs to be done in stages based on your individual body chemistry. So please don't let somebody give you a herbal pill and then just stop. Please. And no, never.
I was never going to do that.
Thank goodness you had the wherewithal. Thank goodness. I'm so glad you were clever enough to know not to do that.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Thankfully, that was my aunt on my dad's side. Thankfully, my whole mother's side of the family is basically was basically out atheist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my mum even went so far as to call herself a pantheist Satanist or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
I had absolutely no idea how her and dad got together, seeing as he's a young Earth creationist.
Oh.
So, they broke up when I was pretty young. I think you can predict that pretty easily. Let's not go into that. But, and unfortunately, my mum's dead, and I didn't really go to a funeral, so, oh well.
I found a lot of times people who are, pantheistic or Satanists or Wiccans, they tend to be more atheistic a lot of times, or at least they don't believe in some monotheistic God, or maybe God.
Yeah, she told me that she believes God is the universe. God is just the universe. It's some amorphous, ambiguous term that doesn't really mean anything. It becomes so watered down. But I know. I mean, even when I was 10, I was like, what is that supposed to mean? Even when I was 10, I knew that didn't make sense.
Even
I
they have
didn't
a name
understand
for these
she meant it
things,
metaphorically, being 10.
Even though they're atheists oftentimes, or like they don't believe in a God, but they believe in like spiritualism, it kind of goes to show that you can still be an atheist and not be a skeptic, and not really, value or understand scientific skepticism to the degree that you could. GM Skeptic posted in the chat that essential oils are the bane of his existence, and I think essential oils it's people don't realize that it's a shortening of the phrase essential snake oils, but trademark.
Into doTERRA. doTERRA is the one that tries to.
I think I have a couple of bottles of essential oils somewhere, but I only have them for the smell, not for the properties.
Well, yeah,
they smell great. If you want to rub them on yourself to smell good, I'd say go for it.
Some of them might, kind of calm you down and make you feel more relaxed or something. Like they might have certain aspects that are positive, but they're not going to, cure your diabetes or have some huge medical impact that they're being touted as anti-aging characteristics or something.
Rum does that for
Yeah,
me.
I'm sure you could find some pretty clever ways to rub them on yourself.
Well, it could. I choose not to.
Okay. Well, we're gonna wrap it up. We've been going for just over 2 hours. Godless Cranium, where can people find your work? And then Shannon, where can people find yours?
You can find mine on my channel, Godless Cranium. You can also look up Heathen Hour podcast on Fireside FM, or through Stitcher, iTunes, Android Play, the store or whatever. You can usually find all the links to any of those in my channel descriptions on every video. So you can check those out there.
Shannon?
So you can find me on the Heathen Hour podcast. You can find me on Paulogia's channel, and I strongly suggest Paulogia's channel. It's a great channel. You can find me on the Great Debate Community. I host a series there called Let's Talk About You with Shannon Q, where I talk to people who hold a diametrically opposed position to me, and I know nothing about them until the moment I meet them, and I meet them on the stream. You can also find me. Sorry, I find it fascinating, actually. Yeah, I do it quite frequently. I talked to G-Man on there for the first time. I just met him when I was talking to him, and it went quite well, actually. I had a nice conversation with G-Man. And you can find me on Twitter. I'm Shan_Q0 on Twitter, and I'm pretty active there. And I also have a YouTube channel called Shannon Q, and one day I'll post a video there, but right now it's filled with playlists where you can find things that I do.
Once you hit 1,000 subs.
When I hit 1,000 subs.
was the _Q without the 0 taken on Twitter, and that's why you added the 0?
Actually, I had my full name. I got rid of my full name, and I did Shan_Q. And yeah, and just put the 0 on the end because it's 0, 1, 2, 3.
Awesome.
That one works.
Fantastic. Well, hey, thank you guys both for joining us, for talking to us, showing us what it's like all around the world for all of our patrons who joined in, talked about their experiences where they live, being able to compare what it's like in Australia and Canada, here in the South, South Dakota. I'm gonna miss stuff, but Ohio and all over. Wisconsin, Texas, Oklahoma. Don't forget the Faithless Forum. We're going to have a YouTubers conference the week after Easter, and we have an event for it on Facebook. You search for the Faithless Forum or the faithlessforum.com website. Thank you guys so much again for joining me. Have a fantastic night. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend, the few hours that are left. And whatever you guys do, don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Thank
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.